And with us now in the studio to discuss is John Ullyot, Managing Partner of the Brighton Strategy Group and former Chief Spokesman for the National Security Council. John, great to have you with us. We appreciate it.
Tracy, it's great to be back under admittedly not great circumstances for the intel community.
Yeah, John, let's dive right into this. I mean, a lot of questions surrounding all this. And one big question a lot of people are asking is how did this young man, this 21-year-old who seemingly doesn't have a high security clearance, maybe he does, how did he gain access to all of this?
Well, I would assume we were just learning about his arrest tonight, but the fact is that this is something you have to rely on people at times who are young people, and look, they do a very good job, and a lot of them are entrusted. First of all, they go through really extensive background checks, and it would be very surprising if this individual did not have the highest level clearance, because the documents that were released, if you look at the 100 documents, those are the only ones that we know so far, they are at the highest levels of classification. Once again, to your question, we do rely sometimes on young people. It can't always be, you need, in other words, foot soldiers, you need people on the technical side to help get it to the decision makers. And it seems here this was somebody who pretty low rank in the Air National Guard. He's not active duty Air Force. He might have been activated for the active duty, but the bottom line, you would never quite see somebody in the National Guard having this type of a level of access. So presumably he was involved in getting that material to the decision maker, and he decided then to take it and leak it in some way. It sounds like if he's the only one who really took it out, and this is a rogue act by one person, that's good. That's a lot better for us than if this were something that were calculated. And to Senator Murphy's point earlier, they're very quick to blame other countries right now, when really we need to start looking at our own people and really tamping down and clamping down on our access to classified information, because this is the worst intelligence leak in over a decade.
Yeah, and what does that say? I mean, what's that say about us, within the military and intelligence, but also our national security? I mean, what kind of danger does this pose? Well,
there's a clear danger, mainly because two things. Number one, it exposes some of our means of communication and the level of access that we may have in certain cases to some of the countries that this intelligence is talking about, because it's not just Ukraine, it's not just Poland, it's not just Egypt. It's in some cases Israel, in some cases South Korea, and others. And so what it does is it sort of gives a flag to them. Hey, look, we better be very, very careful. And so it shuts off. And those are just our allies. Then if you look at some that we're in conflict with, whether it's the Chinese or the Russians, they'll be able to say, hey, we really need to watch out about communicating in this way or that way because of the extent of our capabilities. So it does reveal those capabilities. And the second thing that it does, it damages our relationship, separate from giving the sources and methods that this does, but the actual intelligence itself really makes it difficult for us to continue to cooperate with our allies when they find something like, let's say that we've been exaggerating the capability of the Ukraine forces on the one hand, or let's say that we've been working with the South Koreans to have them work around their laws and somehow fund the Ukrainian war when their law apparently doesn't allow them to do that. But we're actually working with them according to these documents. So the less we know, the less that gets out about these, the better. I'd say one more thing, Tracy, about this, that while we're talking about this particular aspect, is that, look, accountability is one of the most important things, not only in the military, but in our government. And so for something that's this big of a leak, it's not just a partisan matter. President Trump was very tough on his people. He fired different cabinet secretaries for things that were way, way below this. And then you had President Obama, to his credit, he fired a couple generals that were over in Afghanistan when things weren't going well there. He held them accountable. They didn't resign in disgrace, but he just said, we need new leadership. And then if you look back in the Bush administration, there were a couple instances where they took the top of the Air Force and also the top of the Department of the Army for the Walter Reed, remember, where the families weren't being taken care of. Those people were out right away. And so right now we've had Afghanistan, we've had another lapse. This is the biggest lapse, and nobody's been held accountable. If Biden really wants to show that he's serious here, there'd be some heads rolling.
Yeah, we don't have much time left, John. I could talk about this for a while, about
Sure.
30 seconds left or so. But I want to get to something else. You just wrote an op-ed for the National Review. Quickly tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, well, this was this disastrous briefing on Afghanistan that, look, I don't mean anybody any in judgment or whatever, but the fact is that this White House, instead of putting the president out the way the last administration did, President Trump spoke to the press all the time, what happens here is Biden punts big announcements like this Afghanistan report to his spokespeople, and when that puts them in a tough position because there are a lot of missteps. They don't know how to defend that, and it'd be better not to have a briefing and wait till the president comes back and have him do it personally, because that's what happened under Trump.
Well, John, always great to have you on and get your insights. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Tracy. Great to be here.